Welcome into Steelers Talk. I'm your host, Jack Sperry, and today on the show, I'm going to tell you the 5 things that the Pittsburgh Steelers must do this year in order to win Super Bowl 61 in Los Angeles next February. Obviously, the Steelers have been stuck in place and kind of stuck in football purgatory where they're going to playoffs, they're getting double-digit win seasons, but they're not winning in the postseason and they're not winning Super Bowls. How do the Steelers take the next step? These 5 things can help the Steelers do that next year. Now, before we get into my list today, make sure you guys click that thumbs up icon if you want the Pittsburgh Steelers to take that next step next year. If you want to go from a team that's just fighting to get into the playoffs to a team that's fighting for an NFL championship, if you want to take that step, click that thumbs up icon to help support the show. All right, so the first thing that the Steelers need to do in order to win the Super Bowl next year is they got to pick the right quarterback to lead them to the promised land. And, it's not like you need a top 5 quarterback in the National Football League to be able to win a Super Bowl. We've seen this the last 2 years where we've seen Jalen Hurts and we've seen Sam Darnold for the Seattle Seahawks win Super Bowls, and those guys I would not consider as like superstar level, super weapon type of quarterbacks, all right? I think they're pretty solid, and they're more than capable of getting the job done with the proper supporting cast around them, and really, it was huge for the Seahawks this year to go from Geno Smith to Sam Darnold, having that upgrade, not to mention the big upgrade from Ryan Grubb at OC to Clint Kubiak, really helped kickstart that offense, and then with another year of growth under Mike Macdonald on the defensive side of the ball, they turned into the most complete football team in the National Football League this year, and they 100% deserved to win the Super Bowl this year, in my opinion. Now, the thing with Mike McCarthy's offense, guys, is that it's very quarterback-centric. So if you want to win the Super Bowl next year, you got to have the quarterback that's capable of, operating this offense, making the checks at the line of scrimmage, getting the ball where it needs to go on the option routes that Mike McCarthy likes to run. So my guess is they will have a veteran at the helm, at least to start the season this year. In terms of the top veteran quarterback options that are out there on the market, Aaron Rodgers seems to be the Steelers' favorite right now, but if he ends up retiring, you could go with Malik Willis in free agency. You could trade for Kyler Murray, who's honestly got a similar profile to Darnold, former, top draft pick, very talented guy, going to a new team. If you want to recreate the Darnold sort of thing, Kyler Murray fits that mold. Derek Carr said that he is open to returning out of retirement if you want to go with him, and then Anthony Richardson would be kind of the big swing at the position at just 24 years old. The chances of him turning it around and being a Super Bowl winning quarterback are pretty low, in my opinion. But for my money, guys, Aaron Rodgers gives the Pittsburgh Steelers their best chance to win a Super Bowl next year. Now, you might be saying, but Jack, the Steelers have no chance at a Super Bowl with Aaron Rodgers, so why even, try that out again? But, I think the reasons why that I think Rodgers is capable of potentially delivering a Super Bowl caliber season here in Pittsburgh is because of the playoff experience. Number one, that experience definitely matters, okay? It just does. You look at some of the, you look at all the Super Bowl winning quarterbacks in history, usually they're very experienced guys, or at least they have some experience under their belt. There's a lot of very young, inexperienced playoff quarterbacks in the AFC right now. That gives Aaron Rodgers and the Steelers an edge. Also, Rodgers still has elite football IQ. You need to have that football IQ to operate this Mike McCarthy offense, where the quarterback has a lot of freedom at the line of scrimmage, okay? He also has high-end arm talent. Even though the Steelers weren't throwing the ball down the field all that much, I would attribute that more to the wide receiver room not being able to get open consistently more than Rodgers isn't capable of throwing the ball down the field. He can still throw the ball 70 yards, man. We saw it on that one Hail Mary versus Cincinnati. He can still make every single throw. Also, he limits negative plays. And that's very important, man. Not taking stupid sacks, not throwing a lot of interceptions. Those were the 2 things that Aaron Rodgers really did at a very good level for the Pittsburgh Steelers this year. And then also he's got continuity with the group. If you bring in Malik Willis, if you bring in Kyler Murray, they got to build that chemistry with everybody in this offense, whereas Rodgers already has that established chemistry with DK Metcalf, already has that established chemistry with Pat Freiermuth, Jalen Warren. If they bring back Kenny Gainwell, Darnell Washington, all those different guys, he's got that year of continuity inside this group, and you can build off of that in a second year. And listen, man, Tom Brady won a Super Bowl at age 43, and if he can do it, I believe so can Rodgers. Rodgers, because you look at what Brady did in age 42 with the New England Patriots, and it just wasn't very good. All right, you look back, like everybody thought Brady was done. All right, even the Patriots did. They let him go, and they let him become a free agent, because guess why? He just wasn't very productive. He was 28th in success rate. He was 31st in yards per attempt, 25th in big-time throw percentage, and he wasn't really all that accurate either. It kind of similar numbers to what Aaron Rodgers had to deal with here in Pittsburgh. But we saw Tom Brady with a better wide receiver room in Tampa Bay, with an offensive-minded head coach, two changes that could very easily happen here in Pittsburgh this year, go from a bottom 20 quarterback in the league, and that's just being generous, to a guy that was back being a top 10 QB and ended up winning a Super Bowl with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers at age 43. So I look at Brady, I look at Rodgers, they got very similar profiles. They're both pocket passers with high-end arm talent and football IQ. I think that, Brady is proof that Aaron Rodgers can still potentially get the job done if the Steelers put the right supporting cast around him. Then also another advantage to bringing back Rodgers is that it allows the Steelers to develop the future behind him without having to sacrifice the present. I mean, if you go with Will Howard as your starting quarterback next year, there's a chance that you completely sacrifice the present, and the defense is great, and you got the weapons and the O-line to compete right now, but you're stuck in kind of a J.J. McCarthy situation where your quarterback is holding you back, and you're not going to be able to take that next step because Will Howard isn't the guy. All right, that's the risk that you run with going with a guy like Will Howard, but if you bring back Aaron Rodgers, Will Howard can continue to develop behind him, and the team can give him a full evaluation over the course of the year to see, is this guy really right for us long term? And they could also bring in some other players. They could draft a quarterback. They could bring in a Trey Lance or a Will Levis, one of these former high draft picks, to see if they can develop under Aaron Rodgers for a year as well. The opportunities for development are fantastic if you bring back Aaron Rodgers for another season here in Pittsburgh. So what say you guys? Let me know down there in the comment section, which QB would give Pittsburgh the best possible chance to win a Super Bowl in 2026? I think it's Aaron Rodgers. Do you think it's somebody else? Let me know what you guys think down there in the comments for today's pinned question. In just a second here, I'm going to break down a great merch opportunity for you guys right in time for Valentine's Day. But before I get into that, and while I'm talking about that, let me know your answer to today's pinned question down there in the comments. And guys, we do have a new collection of merch for you guys to purchase on our website right now, chatsports.com/VDayST. That link is down there in the comments and description of today's show to get any of the items in our Married Into This collection just in time for Valentine's Day. What's included in the collection is 2 different colors of unisex sweatshirts. You've got the black one or the white one. The black one right now is the best seller, but you guys can also get ladies' t-shirts. That one's only available in white right now, so if your special someone would like to wear something like this to Latrobe, not to mention the t-shirt is cheaper than the sweatshirt, you guys can go with that option as well. And the thing that I love about this new company that we're pairing with here for our merch deals, guys, is that the stuff is super comfortable. It's premium quality stuff, but it's not going to break the bank for you guys. We finally found a partner that we're really proud to partner with here at Chat Sports for our merch game. And if this does well, guys, my bosses tell me that we can do more merch opportunities like this on the channel for St. Patrick's Day and 4th of July and the NFL Draft and NFL Free Agency, all these different things. So if you guys want more merch opportunities here on Steelers Talk, this is our first one that we are unveiling to you guys now. If you want something from our Married Into This collection, you can go chatsports.com/VDayST. That link is down there in the comments and description if you guys want to make a purchase. Second thing on my Super Bowl checklist for the Pittsburgh Steelers here in 2026 is you got to get DK Metcalf some friends in the wide receiver room, because last year he really didn't have any, or at least not any that were reliable for the Pittsburgh Steelers and Aaron Rodgers and the Steelers offense. And, as much as I love DK's skill set and for what he does at an amazing level. He's got great size. He runs certain routes very well, but, just because of the size component, his route tree is limited, and he's more of a yak receiver than like a true 50-50 ball winner down the sideline. He can do that stuff, but I think he's best utilized as a yak threat, and unless he's getting one-on-one opportunities, unless he's getting zone coverage, he's just not going to be able to get open as often as you would like, and I don't think that he's that true alpha number 1 receiver that can beat double coverage in man. I don't think he's that type of guy that's capable of doing that. He's not on the level of a Justin Jefferson or a Jamar Chase, so he needs to have that running mate, that number 2 receiver to pair with him to get that safety attention off of him, because plain simply, guys, last year, nobody respected the other receivers in the Steelers wide receiver room, and how could you blame them? Nobody could even get over 400 yards outside of DK Metcalf last year, and what did that lead to? That led to defenses double covering DK Metcalf very consistently, especially on third and long situations, pass-heavy situations, and because of that, Metcalf's own production dipped because Rodgers just couldn't throw it to him because he was getting double covered. So you got to get him more help. I think it helps DK Metcalf. It helps the rest of the offense, obviously. And the thing is, guys, this issue is very fixable for Omar Khan, the Steelers GM, to fix this offseason. It just is. You've got the cap resources. You've got the draft resources. And I'll just lay out just a simple, scenario for you guys right now. And there's a number of scenarios that they could go down, but this just seems like something that could really work. All right, step one, sign Romeo Doubs in NFL free agency. He shouldn't be that expensive to sign in free agency. It should cost somewhere around $15 million per season over 2 or 3 years to bring him in. Okay, that's not that expensive. You pair him up with Aaron Rodgers, who he has a year of chemistry with already. You know that Romeo knows exactly what Rodgers expects from his route runners, and he's really good separating versus man-to-man. That's a perfect wide receiver 2 option as a veteran for this Steelers offense. And then you can pair DK Metcalf with his future running mate over the next 5 years or so by trading up for a guy like Jordan Tyson. All right, you got 12 draft picks, you've got picks to spend to move up a couple of spots, and whether it's Jordan Tyson, Mekhi Lemon, Carnell Tate, whoever ends up falling into that mid-teens area, you could trade up a couple spots and get one of those guys. For me, Jordan Tyson would be perfect because he can play on the outside, he can play in the slot, he's got a fantastic movement ability. Like his hip fluidity as at a guy his size is just special. He's crazy good at the catch point. I think he's exactly what the Pittsburgh Steelers are looking for in an every situation alpha number 1 receiver of the future. And listen, man, this would be a huge upgrade for Aaron Rodgers in the Steelers offense. DK Metcalf, Romeo Doubs, and Jordan Tyson leading the way in this offense for this season with Aaron Rodgers throwing them the football. I think you're going to see a lot more production from this wide receiver room and a lot more production from the passing offense in general, led by Aaron Rodgers, who, like I said, is the field general that this Steelers team needs, in my opinion. And listen, man, that's just one possibility for this offseason. If you want to go out and sign Deebo Samuel and then draft Mekhi Lemon, you could do that. There's a number of different possibilities that the Steelers can consider at the wide receiver position this year, and they've got more than enough cap and draft resources to be able to fix this position in one offseason. Then another thing that the Steelers need to do to be a Super Bowl champion next year is do something similar to what the Seahawks did this year and the Eagles did the year before that, and that's dominate up front on defense. And the Steelers do have the talent on this roster to be able to do that, all right? Like teams that can rush with just 4 and play 2 high safeties and stop the run, those are the teams that have elite defenses. And the Steelers, I believe, have the talent to be able to play defense that way if they have the right coaching staff to lead the way there schematically. And I think with Patrick Graham coming in, that is the case. Pittsburgh's D-line is already very talented. It's one of the most talented in the National Football League, guys, with T.J. Watt, Alex Highsmith, Nick Herbig, Derek Harmon, if Cam Hayward comes back, Keanu Benton, Y.A. Black looks like he's got a bright future as well. Jack Sawyer is your 4th edge rusher. So this is a really talented D-line. That's never been the issue. The issue has been not getting the most out of this group, which I would argue Mike Tomlin and Terrell Austin did not do. So 2 ways that I think Patrick Graham can get this group to play even better than they have over the last several years is, number 1, actually bring in real nose tackles, right? This was a big issue with Mike Tomlin and Terrell Austin, is that they believe that the modern-day nose tackle does not exist, and I just can't disagree with that more. They put in Keanu Benton at the nose tackle, who can't anchor, can't take on double teams, and it severely hurt the Steelers' run game and the run defense, okay? Patrick Graham is somebody that can come in here and fix that issue on day one. And then also he can get creative with different front styles and stunts and games and to get people free and scheme people free instead of just relying on one-on-one dominance like Mike Tomlin and Terrell Austin tended to do. And, something that I really like about Patrick Graham's profile, guys, is he's really good at mixing up the fronts, and he tailors the defense to the defensive personnel. So whatever he thinks is best for the Steelers personnel, that's what's going to be deployed. He's going to be mixing it up. He's going to try and confuse the opposing offense, something that he's really good at doing. I think Patrick Graham is the right man for the job to get the most out of this very talented Steelers pass rush. But then also you got to elevate the linebacker room to a higher level than it's been under Mike Tomlin and Teryl Austin. This has been a defense and a defensive system that frankly has put their linebackers in tough spots over the last several years. Not just last year, but over the last several years. This is a system that is very hard to play if you are an inside linebacker playing under Mike Tomlin and Teryl Austin. It just is. They put you in some really tough binds, and we have a lot of evidence for this. I mean, Robert Spillane and Devin Bush were frankly not very good here in Pittsburgh when they played in this system. Then they go elsewhere, Las Vegas in the case of Robert Spillane, and then Devin Bush to Cleveland, and both of those guys are playing at a super high level. Robert Spillane went to the New England this year, and he made it to the Super Bowl as a part of that defense that took a big step forward this year. So we had enough talent in the room under Mike Tomlin and Teryl Austin. They just didn't know how to properly utilize it. And I can't help but feel like Patrick Queen was the latest culprit of that kind of situation, where Queen went from an all-pro in Mike McDonald's system there in Baltimore, comes over to Pittsburgh where linebackers go to die in Mike Tomlin and Teryl Austin's system, and he's just a dude, and he misses a lot of tackles, and he's not really allowed to use his athleticism the way that he really needs to be, guys, because that's his superpowers, his crazy athleticism at his size. And there's been a number of people that have criticized the way the Steelers play defense, specifically with the way they use linebackers. Julian Edelman said this about the Steelers defense a couple years back. He says they did what they did, though. You know exactly what they're going to do every time, and they still do what they do. They still do the same goddamn shit that they did back when I was playing Tomlin's defense. I'm like, what the? We still have linebackers covering the 3 slot every time we play the Steelers. I have at least 9 catches. You'd think that they would change it, but they don't. And, that's just part of the situation there, like I was telling you about, that, the Steelers and Mike Tomlin, Teryl Austin, they asked a lot out of their linebackers to cover like slot receivers at times and, running backs that were really good route runners and receiving threats. And that's just not realistic in today's National Football League, guys. And even Patrick Queen himself criticized the schematics from Teryl Austin this year here in Pittsburgh, saying this during the season. I think sometimes it was schematic issues that we had. It's kind of hard for 2 guys that are underneath defenders to try and guard 2 routes. That's overhanging off the hashes and stuff. And as much as you try to get a bang or whatever it is, it's hard to do that. It's kind of a bad spot to be in. But at the end of the day, we just got to be better. Clearly Patrick Queen was frustrated with the way that he was being used in the Steelers defense under Mike Tomlin and Teryl Austin. And, that's really leading to a big question here, which is, should the Pittsburgh Steelers cut Patrick Queen this offseason? It certainly seems like the Steelers are at least considering it. And the reason for that is you can save $13.3 million against the cap if you let him go. If you keep him on the team, it's just over $17.1 million against the cap, and that's one of the higher cap hits for a linebacker in the NFL this year if you decide to keep him around for another season. But, my question is, if you let Patrick Queen go, who are you replacing him with? Because you look at the top free agent linebackers, and there's some good players out there. Devin Lloyd, really good player, but he would cost you more per season than just to keep Patrick Queen. Devin Bush, is getting older for sure, and, we've seen him not play so well here in Pittsburgh before. I don't know if they'd want to bring him back. Nakobe Dean is an undersized linebacker. Would they want to bring him in? Leo Chanel, somebody that's an interesting choice there, but I would say I would rather have Patrick Queen and his athleticism over Chanel's. And then Alex Anzalone's 31 years old. Do we really want to bring him in? Those are the top 5 veteran options. And then another, path you could go down is you could, roll the dice on a young rookie and ask them to start right away. There's some good linebackers in this class. It is a good linebacker class, but anytime you're asking a rookie to come into the National Football League and ask them to play one of the harder positions to play in the league right away, it's always going to be a tough ask if that's what the Steelers are planning to do by cutting Patrick Queen, who is a former All-Pro player. And, something about Patrick Graham that I really like is that he has tended to get the most out of his linebackers when he was there in Las Vegas. He got the most out of Robert Spillane right when he came over from the Pittsburgh Steelers. He was a rotational third linebacker when he was here in Pittsburgh. He immediately turns into their second best defensive starter in the Las Vegas Raiders system under Patrick Graham. Robert Spillane himself has talked extensively about how Patrick Graham is a savant of defensive football. So that's about all the endorsement that I need to say Patrick Graham knows what the hell he's talking about. But could Patrick Graham also get the most out of guys like Patrick Queen, who was a former All-Pro, is a freak athlete, another freak athlete in Peyton Wilson, who also didn't look terrific in his first 2 years here at the Pittsburgh Steelers? Could he and his awesome physical skill set get unlocked with Patrick Graham here in Pittsburgh? I can see an argument that says Patrick Queen and Peyton Wilson, those two guys should be our starting linebackers here in Pittsburgh for another year. Now that Patrick Graham is in our building. So you guys make the call for me down there in the comments section. What should the Pittsburgh Steelers do with Patrick Queen? Should they cut him and save $13.3 million, or do you guys keep him and take on the over $17 million cap hit to keep him here in Pittsburgh? It's a tough call. Let me know your opinion down there in the comments section. Then the final thing on my checklist here is to build a suffocating secondary here in Pittsburgh. And this is what Mike Tomlin and Terrell Austin thought they were building here in Pittsburgh last year by bringing in older players like Jalen Ramsey and Darius Slay and kind of expecting them to turn, back the clock and, be the prime versions of themselves that could lock down anyone man to man. I think Patrick Graham has a little bit more sense than that. And I think Pittsburgh has already got a pretty decent foundation in place. I think you have 3 of your 5 pieces in the secondary already in place. I mean, Joey Porter Jr. proved at the end of this season and really throughout the season that he's a lockdown number 1 corner in press man coverage. All right, this guy's one of the best press corners in the league, completely shut down Nico Collins in that playoff game. Then I think you move Jalen Ramsey back to big nickel. He's still an awesome tackler and run defender. He's still a really good blitzer, and I still think he's very instinctual enough to play that nickel star position that is so important in these Patrick Graham, Belichickian style defenses where they like to play with 3 safety types on the field. And then also Deshaun Elliott, we know how good of a player he is. So right now, if the Steelers can just find, the right players and the right fits at CB2 and then the other safety spot, the Steelers could have a really good secondary as well as a really good pass rush, similar to what the Eagles had 2 years ago when they won the championship, similar to what the dark side defense had in Seattle this year. They had complete groups that had great players at all 3 levels of the defense. The Steelers have the talent in place in the cap resources, the draft resources to build a similar kind of dominant defense under Patrick Graham here in Pittsburgh this year. So let me know what you guys think down there in the comment section. Does Pittsburgh even have a 1% chance of winning the Super Bowl in 2026? Give me a yes or a no down there in the comment section. And that'll be it for today's edition of Steelers Talk by Chat Sports. Thank you guys for joining me here today. I got more great Steelers content coming for you guys all throughout the offseason, all throughout the rest of this week. So make sure you guys click that subscribe button if you haven't already to never miss any of our free programming.